Meanwhile, Walter, continuing to erode mentally, was working overtime. One morning, Mom flapped her wings and fell in the living room. As Ornella helped her up, Walter rushed in and punched at Ornella, yelling, "What have you done to her?" He missed her that time. As the day wore on, Mom got restless and wanted a little action, so she and Ornella ventured forth to the kitchen to make a slice of toast. Walter, imagining Mother was going to get burned, threw Ornella aside and grabbed Mom's arm, bruising her to the bone. In the afternoon, when the physical therapist lifted Mom's good arm over her head, Walter bounded in out of nowhere, screaming, "You can't do that to my wife." The therapist quit. That night at 4 a.m., Walter believed the fire alarm was going off and called 911. No one else could hear a fire alarm, but Walter could. The firemen arrived and were not pleased to learn there was no emergency. Walter started out the following day with his usual round of breakfast gin and tonics. Mother fell. As Ornella lifted her, Walter launched a two-fisted frontal attack. Ornella managed to duck the first punch, but the left hook caught her under the jaw. Edward was nowhere to be found. Ornella called the police, who called me in Halifax. Walter, Edward, and Ornella were shouting at one another in the background, punctuated by Mom yelling, "Stop it!" at the top of her lungs. "Okay, buddy, calm down," a male voice said, presumably to Walter. "Mrs. Federico, this is very confusing here." I heard the other officer saying, "No more drinking. I am a policeman and you are not going to drink anymore." "Just find all the booze and pour it out," the man on the phone said to his partner. Meanwhile, Edward and Ornella were still shouting, "Knock it off. Which one of you is in charge?" "I am," said Ornella and Edward in unison. The officer on the phone said to me, "Look, I don't think you want me to arrest your father." I resisted the impulse to say, "That would be ideal." "Could you please file a report, officer?" "You need to get these people into a home or something. They shouldn't be drinking, and I don't want to get called up here again." Then he hung up. Of course neither Walter or Mother should be drinking, but the staff was afraid to refuse them. Technically, Mom and Walter paid their wages and no one wanted to get fired.